All right, everyone. So this is my imaginary black square. Obviously, my square is white, not black. I didn't want to waste a piece of black paper on doing a demo with you guys. So this is just pretend this is a black piece of paper. So like I said before, when you cut your black squares out, your 6" by 6" black squares, you are going to have one extra. And what you can do with that one extra square is you can turn them into tiny little black squares. Now I gave you another sheet of paper, a full, like 15, no, a large, very large sheet of black paper, right? About that big. And you can use that to make squares as well. It's kind of up to you. But what we're going to do is kind of measure out all of our 1/2" black squares. So if you go back to the kind of assignment worksheet, which we've referred to a couple times, that's where it says kind of what the measurements have to be for all of your squares. You'll find that you need 5 by 5" white squares, 5 6 by 6" black squares, and between 150 to 200 little 1/2" black squares. All right, so just so we're all clear, this is my ruler. My 0 is kind of in a weird place, right? Because I have a strange ruler, but we have the 0", the 1", the 2", the 3", and so on and so forth. The 1/2" is going to be directly in between the 0 and the 1, right? It's halfway, hence the 1/2". Also, if you look close enough, it is the second tallest tick mark in your ruler. So if you want to figure it out that way, that's fine. But between 0 and 1, that's a 1/2. Obviously, the next 1/2 is going to be 1, then 1.5, then 2, 2.5, 3, right? These are where we're making all of our tick marks. So as you can see on my cutting board, right, this background kind of grid that I have, each one of these marks on the grid is a 1/2". So I have a little guide that's very helpful. But I'm going to use a ruler just because that's what we are all using. So again, when I'm making tick marks, I want to line up my ruler as best I can, as evenly as I can. Make sure that my ruler is straight across at the top, right? I don't want my ruler to go askew because that's going to mess up my measurements. But we're going to place my ruler at the 0 and the edge of my paper because that's how my ruler works. And the first thing we're going to do is make a tick mark at the 1/2" point, which is directly between 0 and 1. Then we're going to make a tick mark at 1, then a tick mark at 1.5, and 2, and 2.5, and 3. So every 1/2" we are going to be making a tick mark. And it looks like this. And we're going to do this all in one stretch because there's no need to kind of pick up your ruler and try it again. So I know that might be hard to see. Oh, that's a light, not what I wanted. Hold on. There. Make this a little bit darker. You can kind of see these are my tick marks up here at the top. Go one step lighter. Might bring it down just so you can see. There we go. Tick marks below. So now that we have our tick marks at the top, we're going to do the same thing down here at the bottom, right? We're going to line up the edge of my ruler with 0 and the edge of the paper. And we're going to make sure that my ruler is flush with the bottom of my piece of paper. And we're going to do more tick marks. So again, taking my pencil, I'm going to put a tick mark at 1/2. Try to make sure these are really accurate because these are small squares. So it's going to be really obvious if we mess up where these tick marks go because the tiny squares are so small. Now again, I'm doing this on a paper that's white, but you're going to be doing this on your black piece of paper. Right? So now we have 2 marks of tick marks, and now all we have to do is connect them. So I'll line up the first set. There we go. Okay. second. And we're just going to go all the way down. So go ahead and do that now. If you move a little bit faster than I do, I don't know. But just really making sure that all these lines are super straight and that they're accurately measured. And actually what I'm doing is I'm moving, so you probably can't tell on the camera, but I'm not lining the ruler directly up with each of my tick marks. I'm moving it kind of back a little bit because I know that the thickness of my pencil is going to change where the line goes. So don't be afraid to kind of compensate for that. If not, ruler directly on the tick marks is totally fine. Okay, we're left with are kind of these stripes, but all these stripes are evenly like 1/2 inch apart. Very nice. And then, yeah, you guessed it. The next thing we have to do is just do the same thing going the other way. Yeah, that's going to be kind of where our measurements end. So I'll do a few of these. I don't need to do them all because that's your job. But I'm going to start, again, line up with 0 on the edge of my paper. We'll do 3 or 4 of them. Every 1/2 inch. Heck, we're halfway. All right. Tick marks at the top. And then all you have to do, you can use one of the lines you've already created, or if you're uncomfortable with that, you can use the edge of the paper. But line your ruler up with 0. Make your tick mark 1/2, 1, 1/2, 2, 2/2, 3, 3.5, 4, 4.55, and 5.5. And then you are just drawing lines, so connecting the dots. Not all of these are going to be perfect, but you'll be able to identify which ones are kind of perfect squares by sight. Don't be afraid to throw away ones that aren't totally square. You'll see, especially when you get to the edge of the paper, maybe your cut wasn't totally perfect, maybe your measurement wasn't totally perfect. I have the same problems, so we'll kind of identify ones we don't want to keep later. Make sure that line goes all the way to the edge. And what we're going to end with is just a nice little grid. I'm going to do the last 2 this way. Okay. All right. Boom. There you go. So as you can see, this kind of looks exactly like the background of my table. And then eventually what we're going to do is start cutting these into strips and then cutting them sideways going the other way. But it is very important to get all these measurements and all these lines drawn first so that when you start cutting, you don't have to measure anything, right? So we're doing our measurements first. Once we're done with those measurements, we can start cutting. Okay. All right, let's work on completing this. So you're going to want to do at least this much. If you do the math on it, if you have 6 inches going one way, that means you have 12 squares up here at the top. And 6 inches going this way, that means you have 12 squares going down to the side. So if you were to count up all of these squares, I think if my times tables serve me right, that's 144 squares, which is almost at 150. So you're going to have to do a few more, maybe with an extra sheet of paper that you have, right? But this gets you in the ballpark of your necessary squares that you're going to need for the project. All right. And just to reiterate, we're not cutting today, we're just measuring. So this is your task for today, is to measure out You're 144 squares. Okay. Does anyone have questions or concerns?